Welcome back to Link by Golf. I'm your host Ross McGuire, and in this episode I'm joined by Tait, a well-known Scottish golfer. Alan has had a really interesting career, and one of his great achievements was holding the course record at Carnoustie for 23 years. Holding that course record also led to an incredible experience playing with Tiger Woods and Ben Crenshaw. So without any further delay, let's go over to the pod. With me this week is Alan Tait. Alan, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Ross. Thanks for having me along, and well done in getting your podcast up and running, and good luck with it, mate.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on. So first of all, Alan, the way I've started these so far is to ask people basically where they were born and brought up and how they got into golf. So if you could start with that, I'd really appreciate it.
Yes, I grew up in Irvine, Ross. I'm an Ayrshire man, albeit I've been away from Ayrshire, since I was about 17 now. So I'm down actually in Irvine today as we're doing the podcast. I come down and visit my mum. Unfortunately, I lost my dad in January, so I come just pop in, make sure I pop in, come down from Edinburgh and visit my mum for a couple of days. So I'm down there just now, and I grew up playing all my golf at Irvine Bogside, which is a club steeped in history. And really, it was just my mum and dad and my big brother. They would always go out onto the golf course, and I was only a tiny wee boy, maybe 4 or 5 year old, and because they had nobody to babysit, I get dragged along to the golf, and I used to sit in the back of my dad's trolley, and I thought this was great. I would go, Dad, can I sit in the back of your trolley? So I had no interest in hitting a ball. I just liked riding in the back of his wee trolley. But through time, I ended up saying, can I maybe have a shot? And my dad would give me a wee shot, and I would hit it on the green or whatever, and then I would do a wee bit of putting and stuff. So I got the bug quite early after that, and then I started going out with my mum and dad, my big brother, quite regularly. Started playing with them, and I got a wee set of clubs, and that was it really, just from a very young age. And my mum and dad and my brother, they didn't, they genuinely just, we need to take them out because we can't, nobody to watch them. They weren't saying, you're going to take up golf. My mum and dad were never like that. He just left me to do what I wanted to do. So they grew, born and bred in Irvine, proud Ayrshire man, but as I say, I've been in Edinburgh now for about 17 years, but I still try and get down to Irvine, and I'm a lifelong member of Irvine Bogside, which makes me hugely proud. So I don't get out to the golf club as much as I should, but I'm trying to make more of an effort to find the time to go down and go out and have a few holes and see a few of the guys out at the golf club, because I really appreciate I get honorary membership when I was 17 year old, which was a huge honour for me. So I don't ever want to forget my roots.
Yeah, and it's an amazing golf course, and I know that's something I've experienced in terms of, I was actually a caddy down there one time, and what a place it is. So those golfing memories, Alan, clearly start with your family. What kind of age did you start taking it more competitively? Because you had that experience just getting into it with your family, but when did that start to change for you?
Well, about 11 or 12, I got into Irvine Golf Club as a junior and started playing in all the junior medals and stuff like that. But my first love, Ross, was really football. And I'm still a huge football fan. And I was quite good at football, and I actually played up front and I also played in goals. So I went between the two, and I adapted between both. I would bang in the goals, and then next game I'd be in goals, try to save them. So I varied a couple of positions. But I had a schoolboy form with Ayr United, and then I had the chance to go to Dundee United. So when I hit about probably 14, weekends, it was either golf or it was now football. And I really, at that point, I thought, I'm pretty good at both, and I'm going to have to make a decision here. And the football, if I was to go to Dundee United, it would be the travelling from Irvine all the way through to Dundee. And then I thought, football's a team event. At least golf, I can be on my own and I can go out and practice, and I don't need to have a team around me. And I made the decision to go down the golf route. So I would think probably 13, 14, I realised you're pretty good at the golf. You're better than the other boys at your age. So I realised that I'm not bad. So I kind of started really, the football kind of took a wee bit of a back step then, and I started really practicing more and committing myself more to golf from sort of early teens. So that was kind of when I sort of realised, you might be able to do something in this game, but you need to focus, and you can't go between golf and football. You really need to make the decision. And although I was only 13, 14, I made that decision myself again. My family have been amazing over the years. They've never once said, you need to do this, you need to do that. They've left me all my life as a wee boy to make up my own decisions, which is amazing, and I wish, dare I say, a few more parents would let the kids find themselves, as opposed to being told you're taking up that sport and you're going to do that whether you like it or not. And that happens a lot, which is a wee bit of a shame. You just let kids go and enjoy it, and they'll find where they're comfortable and what sports they want to play, and let them go and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. But in your case, Alan, it's around that age of 13, 14, so you've decided that you're going to play a lot more golf versus the football. What kind of competitions were you playing at? Was it just the club level at that point? Were you starting to do county things, or what were you playing in?
Yeah, a little bit of both, Ross. So all the kind of medals at Irvine Golf Club, and then I get my handicap down low enough that I could play in the men's medals, because obviously you're not allowed to play in them until you're 18. But if you got to a certain handicap, you could play in the gents medals. So it's at 13, 14, I was playing in like the gents monthly medals and the club championships and stuff like that. But I was playing a lot of sort of Ayrshire boys opens and stuff like that. So at that point it was very kind of club and county. And I was playing number one for the junior team for Irvine Golf Club, and then I get in the senior team when I was only about 14 for the men's team, which was quite a nice accolade, being away with the men and playing other men, and that was like, geez, who's this wee boy playing golf with us and beating us? So
you pick up a few tricks of the trade with the senior team as well.
Absolutely, I did. Yeah, I mean, I've played with guys that had been playing for years, so I learned by watching them as well as beating them regularly. I was learning as I went as well, which was great. So yeah, probably for sort of 13, 14, it was more sort of, county and junior opens and then a few kind of youth opens and stuff like that. And then I think it was my first Scottish boys. I was 14, I think 1984. I played my first Scottish boys at Dunbar. And that was like the biggest event I'd played into that day. And I won my first round and then I get beaten the second round. But I had a taste for national golf at that point, which was great.
Yeah, and then you, on the national side, Alan, just focusing on that, you went on to do a lot of things for yourself and the national setup. So do you want to talk about some of those experiences through boys and youths?
Yeah, well, I mentioned the Scottish boys there. I'd say I made my debut there when I was 14, and then 1986, when I was 16, by this point, I was now becoming a good amateur, a good boy amateur. And I went into that Scottish boys in 86. At that time it was it was match play only, 256 players. And it was a big event, sponsored by STV, and it was the highlights were shown on Sunday Scott Sport the next day of the final. The final was always on the Saturday at Dunbar, 36 holes. And I was relatively unknown, there was two or three real favourites to win it. Ewan McIntosh, who's a good friend, Ewan now plays the Champions Tour as a golf pro, and he's still a great player and a great friend. And another guy, Stuart Bannerman, who was Harry Bannerman's son, and Harry was an ex-Ryder Cup player from Aberdeen, and Stuart's Harry's son. So they were all playing off about +2 and stuff, and I was playing off about 3 or 4 getting into the Scottish boys, but I knew I was better than that because I'd practised all winter, and the Scottish boys was in April. And I had been out in all sorts of rain, hail, shine, every day, practising, playing golf. So I knew that going into that event, my handicap's not reflecting to how I'm actually playing. I'm a lot better than this. But I quite liked that because I could go under the radar all week and nobody really paid attention to me. And then it got to the sort of 4th, 5th, 6th round and I was getting, the headlines were still McIntosh and Bannerman, but then there would be a wee tiny paragraph at the end of that article saying, in Irvine Bogside, Alan Tait progressed to another round. And as it was, I played Ewan in the final at Dunbar, 36-hole final, and I played great that day. I mean, the score was 6 and 5, and that doesn't reflect badly in Ewan. I just had a great day, and I holed a lot of putts. My putt, and I couldn't do anything wrong that day. The wee man was getting, I could see he was getting rather pissed off, shall we say, at the amount of putts I was holing, and ended up, I beat Ewan 6 and 5, and that all of a sudden exploded Alan Tait on Scottish golf. Winning the Scottish boys at that time was huge, and then that opened up the way to then be capped for Scotland at boys and youth level, and that was the game changer. To be honest, Ross, winning the Scottish boys, was huge, and you got that TV coverage on the Sunday on Scott Sport in between the football, and all of a sudden you were a household name, and that was when everything changed. It really did from that winning that title. So. I've won a lot of things in my days, but the Scottish boys is up there because it was so special to me at the time to win a national event and to do it at such a young age. And as I say, that opened all the doors, from where I went from there.
Yeah, and To me, Alan, what you've described there, you've got so much passion about it, and you should be enjoying reflecting on that. It's an amazing victory at such a young age, but the part that sticks out to me is the confidence you had going into the event. So you knew that you'd done your preparation. No one else sort of knew that you were coming along. So it's probably a good thing from your point of view. They've got no idea what's coming at them.
No, they didn't.
What result as well.
No, you're right, and that was a good way to be. I said it was quite a good way to be under the radar and just quietly going about my business. But match play is it's so tough because I know I'm saying to you I went into that event and I felt as if I'll bet there's not another better prepared player in this field than me, and I'm ready to go. But in saying that, match play, I could have went out that first round and shot 6 under and get beat up the last. Because it's you just never know with match play, or you could go out in the first round and shoot 5 over and you win 6 and 5. It is such a tough game. It is a one-off. It's like a cup final. It can go either way, and so you've always got to be mindful of that. But I was fortunate that every game I sort of got away to a good start and never really looked back. And then in the final against you, I got away to a great start. And again, I just kept in front all day, and that was great. So then from that, that brought along the Scottish caps, and that was amazing. Represent your country. I represented, I think it was 1987. I became the 5th man in Scottish golf history to represent boys, youth and the men's team in the 1 year. There's only been 5 people done that, and I think the year after Andrew Coulthard did it, I think he became the 6th. So that was a great achievement to represent your country at boys, youth and senior level in the 1 year, which was an incredible experience. But I think my proudest moment, and it's proud and it's quite funny as well. We played in the the European Boys Team Championship in 1987, and it was at Chantilly in France, and it was a beautiful big castle at this Chantilly Golf Club in France. Beautiful place, and I was the captain of the 6-man team. So Ewan McIntosh was in the team, Andrew Coulthard was in the team, Stuart Bannerman, a wee guy, Stephen Docherty, who worked for Aberdeen Asset Management. I think it might have been Neil Duncan who's the other one, but anyway, it doesn't matter. And, so it was 2 rounds stroke play, and then a flight of 16. And we played great in the stroke play, qualified no bother, and then we played the old enemy England in the semi-finals, and they had a strong team. And we beat them, and in fact we beat Sweden in the quarterfinals, and they had Joachim Hagman, Per-Ulrik Johansson, and another one who all became Ryder Cup players, and we beat them in the quarters, which was amazing. And then, as I say, we beat England in the semi-final, and then we played Denmark in the final. And I knew that if we beat England in the semi, I thought we will beat Denmark. They were. Without being disrespectful, they weren't the strongest team. They'd done well, but I knew we were far stronger, and beating Sweden and then beating England, I thought if we beat England, we're going to win this, and we did. We won the fight. And I was so proud because the Scottish boys had won the European Team Championships before, but they had never done it in European soil. So we were the very first team to do it away from home. So me being the captain, that was a huge honour. And I remember standing at the prize giving on the putting green at this beautiful big castle at Chantilly. And I'm standing there, and the 6 guys are behind me, sort of in single line file. And we're standing there. It was like the Olympics, and the 3 flagpoles are standing. And the next thing, the saltire starts going up to it was either Scotland the Brave or Flowers. I think it was Scotland the Brave actually. And I'm welling up, and I'm standing there, and I'm losing it. I'm thinking, I'm like, right, come on, Tait, you're the captain. Step off. You can't let them see that you're, a big Jesse, and you're standing here in tears. Can't you do that? You've got to lead by example. You're the captain. And the next thing I heard this kind of noise behind me. It was a kind of wailing noise, and I'm like, what's going on? And I turned around, there was Coulthard standing there, breaking his heart behind me. And I had to go and find my hanky out of my pocket. And he standing behind me, wiping away his tears, and that was a lovely moment because it was so emotional standing there in France, watching that flag going up, and then I looked behind Coulthard, and wee Bannerman was in tears, and I'm standing there at the front trying to be the big guy. So at that point, I lost it as well, and that was a really special moment to win the European Championships and represent your country. It was amazing. We had a few drinks that night, Ross. I'll tell you, there was a bit of a party going on back at the Scottish camp that night. So I think I think a couple of us nearly missed our flight the next day at Charles de Gaulle, but we got there in the end.
No wonder. I mean, what a story, Alan. It's so fantastic to hear it, the energy and passion you've got about it. It's clearly something that still sits with you and just gives you joy to talk about it. So I really enjoyed hearing about that. In terms of Scotland and your achievements, I'm guessing that was where you started to get noticed for what you did, not necessarily next, but in the future, which was to go to the States. So what was the kind of timeline for playing for Scotland, for playing for those teams, and then getting into college in the States?
So how it came about to go to the States, so after winning the Scottish Boys, at that time, before your time, there was a chap called Doug Sanders, who was the American that missed the wee putt, I think in 1970 or 71 to win the Open at St Andrews. And Doug Sanders at that time ran the Doug Sanders European and World Boys Championships. So if you won your national event, you then represented your continent. So later that year, I represented Scotland playing in the European Boys Team Championship. And if you won that, you then played in the world final. So I ended up winning the European individual, which then went on to represent in the world final. And the world final was it was a 4-ball over 4 rounds. So there was a representative there from Europe, North America, Australasia and Asia. So the 4 continents, and it was just basically a 4-man shootout for 4 rounds. And the funny thing about it is at that time, the Doug Sanders used to rotate round all the different continents, Australia, Asia, North America, blah, blah. When it was my turn to play in it, King's Links in Aberdeen. Thank you.
Brilliant.
I'm like, what do you do to deserve that? So the 4-man shootout was at King's Links in Aberdeen, and me as a Rangers fan, King's Links is right next to Pittodrie, and I'm going, aye, cheers. So it ended up.
Choice of California, Florida,
absolutely,
Australia, Melbourne.
No, exactly. No, King's Links, Aberdeen, thanks. So I ended up. I won the World Boys Championship, as I say. And that was
off the blow, Alan.
It did, and that was amazing. I mean, the crowds that came out that week to watch us was unbelievable. And then I think it was on the Saturday, Aberdeen were at home I can't remember, and they're all walking across the fairways, but all the fans were stopping to watch us, and it was just a great atmosphere, and so on the back of that, after the big prize given after the last round, it was in the big Aberdeen, the big place down near the golf course. It's like a big town hall type thing down near the golf course. And Doug Sanders came up to myself and my mum and dad, and my brother was there as well, and he came up to us at the end and said, look, I'll catch you for breakfast in the morning, I want to speak to you. And it was Doug Sanders that came to me and my parents and said, look, you're 17-year-old, you're a great young prospect, and I really like you. And he said, I think the next stage for you is to go out to America and maybe go to and see how you get on. And he said, and I'll set it all up for you. And that's how it happened. So it was actually Doug Sanders that then got that ball rolling, and that was in the August of 86 or 7. And then I was away in January, away to begin a 2-year scholarship as a 2-year scholarship at junior college in America. So I went there in the January, a few months later when I was 17.
And how was that experience at the junior college, Alan? What was it like being out in the States and the change from Scotland?
So in the beginning, I went to a place called Paris, Texas, which is a little kind of hick town, about 90 minutes north of Dallas. It's like one of these towns where you drive through, and the old guys get on this rocking chair on the decking, and he's got the big bit of straw coming out his mouth, and it's like something out of the movies, like a real back of beyond town. So I went there and I was like, this is not what I was expecting. This is really not. It's like a hillbilly
flying past.
It was like a hillbilly town. They call themselves hicks out there, but it was a hillbilly kind of place. And it was all the country music and all that. There was no discos. It was all the banjos and stuff. So anyway. And I went out there in the January, and I was only 17, and I'd never been away from home at any length of time, and like any kid that age with a wonderful family, everything was done for you. And then I got out there, and I went out in January, and the weather was rotten, and I was in a dormitory with all these guys that I didn't know. And I was miserable the first 2 or 3 weeks. I really was. I was so homesick. I was really miserable, and I wasn't enjoying it. And I've told this story before. My wee mum, and I phoned. This was now sort of early February, and I phoned home this night, and it was obviously the pay phone at the college, and I'm rattling all the quarters and all the dollars into it. You got about 4 seconds with a boot machine quarter. It was. And I'm rattling all the coins in. And I got on the phone to my mum and dad, and my dad took the call up the stairs. At that time, you had 2 phones. You had one in the bedroom, one in the living room. So I'm talking to my mum, and my dad's listening up the stairs. And I said, Mum, Dad, I'm miserable. This is not what I thought it was going to be. And I've not really got friends with any of the boys. And I feel it's quite lonely, and it's not nice. And I always remember, that was kind of early mid-February. And I always remember my mum saying, OK, son, right, I'll tell you what, give it to the 1st of April. And if you're still miserable, me and your dad will phone up, and you're coming home on the 1st of April. She said, that's it. 1st of April, you're coming home. And I was like, really, Mum? And she was like, yeah, absolutely, 1st of April. And I came off the phone, and mentally I was so happy. I came off the phone going, I'm getting home in a few weeks. Fantastic, this is great. Right? My wee mum knew exactly what she was doing. And I came off the phone, and I slept well that night, and I got up the next day, and I was in a good mood, and I started talking to the boys and blah, blah, and I was like to the guys, oh, by the way, I'm getting home in a few weeks. And they're like, you're just here. And I'm like, yeah, no, but it's not really working out. And you know, Ross, 1st of April came, and I was loving American life, and as the weather had get better, the guys had all befriended me, and they were starting to take me to their house at the weekend, and I was playing golf at their country club, because they were from Texas and Oklahoma and Louisiana, and they were like, Tait, you're coming home with me this weekend, and we're going to go to spring break, and we're going to play golf here, and my mum and dad want to meet you and all the rest of it. Now, honestly, I'm so indebted to my wee mum for that, because if she'd said to me that night, OK, you're coming home tomorrow, there'll be a ticket at the airport for you, I would have went. But my mum knew he's not giving this a chance. He's only been there 3 weeks. But she played a smart wee game, saying, right, that's fine, but you're coming home the 1st of April. And the 1st of April came, and I phoned my mum, and I'm like, Mum, I'm not coming home. This is great. I'm loving this. And I've just won my first collegiate tournament, and I'm going to this guy's house at the weekend, and I've met a couple of nice girls, and blah, 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 and we're having beers, and everything's great all of a sudden. So that, well done, my wee mum, for that. And then I had 2 very happy years out there at junior college. Ended up, I graduated, came home. But I had 21 universities at the end of the 2 years wanting to sign me up to go to uni for 4 years out there. But the plan was only ever to do 2 and come home and then turn pro. But college life was great. I mean, you were basically getting 11 months a year golf, and I was very lucky. I got a full scholarship. That all we had to pay was flights for me. So my education, my digs, all my golf equipment, my food, everything was paid for. So it was a fantastic experience, and that was a wee bit before anyone was really doing it. I mean, the scholarship now claims huge, but I was one of the first, back in the kind of late 80s to actually do it. And I would say to anybody listening, if you've got, a kid that would like to develop, it's a wonderful way to go down. And the biggest thing for me, and again, my wee mum always said this, she said, and she said this for years until she's got a wee bit of dementia now, but she used to say for years, she would say, Alan went to America. He went there as a wee boy, and he came back 2 years later, and he was like a young, mature man. And she goes, I couldn't believe the change in him. She said he came back, and he was getting up in the morning and making his own bed. He was ironing his own clothes. He was making dinner, and she was right. My mum and dad did all of that for me. And I came back, and she was like, I didn't recognise who this guy was. She goes, he was just like doing everything, and no, Mum, I'll get it, it's fine. So not only did your golf improve in that 2 years, but you grew up. You grew up very quickly, because you had to fend for yourself. Mum and Dad weren't there to help you anymore. So just growing up as a human being and becoming a better person, and it was a great way to do it. You grow up very quickly when you're in another country like that, having to fend for yourself, and I did, and again, I'm very grateful for that 2 years I had out there.
Yeah, and it's preparing you for the next step, right? I mean, being a professional, you're looking after yourself. It's all on you. So I think that takes us straight into talking about that, Alan. You've got a professional career, but can you just talk about how that process went and And some of the things you've done along the way in professional golf.
Yeah, so when I came back from America, the plan was to then turn professional in Scotland, and I took the decision that I would, I'd always aspirations of just going straight to tour school and getting my tour card. In an ideal world, that's what everybody wants to do. But I took the decision that I'm going to do both. I'm going to start my PGA training, and while I'm doing my PGA training, I'll still go for my European tour card at the end of each year. So the PGA training's 3 to 4 years. Depending how you go on with your exams and etc. So most guys get through in 3 or 4 years. So I started as an assistant professional to Ken Steveley, who was at Connor Golf Club in Bishop Briggs in Glasgow. Ken had Ken put an advert out, and I saw the advert, and I went to see Ken, and I started not soon after, and that was me beginning my PGA training. So I moved up to Springburn in Glasgow, and I had a wee flat up there. Moved up from Ayrshire, and I was on my first. I think the first year I was on £75 a week, and the rent in my flat was £80 a week. So I'm a fiver doing right away. So I'm thinking this is going to be tough.
An early career in business as well, Alan.
Absolutely, something. Oh right, something doesn't add up here. So better get some teaching, and I better start winning some assistance events and pro-ams. So I started doing my training with Ken, and during that four years I was with Ken, I played pretty. Ken was great. He let me play in a lot of the assistance events and the Order of Merit events in Scotland. I didn't get to play in everything because I was literally working the shop 5-6 days a week as well. But Ken would let me go and play in big events and the odd big pro-am, which was great. And I did very well. I mean, I had quite a lot of success. Events I did play in, if I didn't win them, I was up there. I was top 5, top 10 every time, which was great. So I was starting to actually that, £75 a week was I'm now starting to pay my rent, and I'm all right.
Good investment ultimately, because
absolutely
there, you're playing in these events, you're getting to bigger and bigger events.
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
continuing that personal development you had at college, right? That you're independent ultimately. And
absolutely. And it actually made you that little bit harder and focused, because you knew that I can't live off £75 a week. Well, I think the second year they put me up to 90 quid, which was good all. So I thought, I'm going out this night, I've got a £15 rise, so let's go to Victoria's in Glasgow. I hit Glasgow City Centre that night with my 15 quid rise. Had a good night that night. So I did my training, and I said I didn't have any joy getting my card during that journey. And then when I qualified, I stayed on as an attached to Codder. So I basically said to Ken, I'm out the shop. He doesn't need to pay me anymore, but is it okay if I keep the attachment here for a couple of years where I can practice here, play here? And then I basically played the Scottish PGA Tartan Tour full time. And at that time, it was amazing. I mean, you could make a living. I mean, you were playing. Oh man, you were playing 3, 4, 5 pro-ams a week from mid-May right through to early October. I mean, you could actually make 35,000, 40,000 in that 5-6 month spell. And then that would get you through the winter, so you didn't need to work. And that was the goal. You want to make enough money between April or May and October. To then bank that money and say, right, as me, I don't need to go and stack shelves in Tesco for the winter. I can actually play golf, or I can go to Florida for a few weeks and maybe play some mini tours, and that's what I did actually. So that was the goal. Unfortunately, those 2 or 3 summers, I made enough that I could put the money in the bank, and then didn't need to work in the winter, which was great. I could basically go and hit balls and go to the range and just be and get ready for the next season sort of thing.
Were you still chasing the European Tour at that point as well, when you've got the additional opportunity for the practice, and you're still keeping a league competition as well?
Absolutely. So in that time I was with Ken at Codder. I went to the tour school 5 times and never really came close, to be honest. I got through the qualifying stages a couple of times, but 1996 was the year I was away from the shop then, and I was playing full time, and that was probably when I was at my peak. I really was. I was playing really well. I won the Scottish PGA Order of Merit that year. There was 772 holders that year, in Scotland, and had 7 top 10 finishes, and then I won the Scottish PJ match play at the end of the season. So that was a great year. And I was flying that year, and I thought, this is your time to get your tour card. If you don't get it, you're now 26-year-old. And I know that's still young, but I'd been going for 5 years, and I'd made my mind up. I'm not going to keep chasing this. I'll go this time and maybe one more, and that's it. I'm not going again, because it's really expensive as well, Ross. I mean, it was a fortune to go for your tour card. So I really practiced hard that year, and my confidence was up, and I get through PQ1, I get through PQ2, and then I went to the final school, which was at the San Roque Club in Soto Grande down the south of Spain. 240 professionals, 6 rounds of golf, and at that time it was 40 cards, European Tour cards. And I played great, and I was in the top 40 comfortably all way. I mean, I got off to a good start, and getting into the last round, I was lying about 18th, comfortably in. And the last round, I had my first wobble. I really did. I had my first wobble of the week, and I'd played so solid, and I went out. I think I went out in 40 or 41 front nine. And my worst score all week's been 72, 73. The worst score, and it was quite tough conditions. And I remember coming off the 9th green, and they had a big board, a big leaderboard at the back of the 9th green, and they always put at the bottom of it projected 40th card, and I've just knocked out in 41, and whatever figure I was on, let's say I was on +7 for the 6 rounds. I looked up at the board and it said projected last card +7, and my heart just sank. I thought, oh my God, I thought this is brutal. Yeah. And I remember walking to the 10th tee, my wee caddy, wee Dougie, who worked for me at Dougie, he worked on he caddied for me in the Scottish the Pro-Ams and stuff. And I remember walking to the 10th tee, and my stomach was churning. But I remember saying to Dougie, look, we really need we really need to concentrate, because this is going to be the toughest and the most important 9 holes of my life. And I said, the good thing is we're still in it. I said, I've struggled the front 9, Dougie. I've had a wobble, but the wobble's gone now. And the good thing was it was quite a long walk for the 9th green to the 10th tee, and I had a wee bit of time to get a bottle of water and just calm down. And I remember I birdied the 10th, par 5, and then I played really nicely after that. And I think I came back in 34 or something for maybe 74 or 75, but that was enough. I finished 32nd. So even awesome. At that, I mean, even at that, it was close. You're cruising all week, and then you're getting to that last round lying 18th. So you're just thinking, just nudge it round, and you're there. And then, and it wasn't that I played that badly in the front 9. I got off to a wee bit of a bad start, and then you kind of chased it a little bit. Think, I better get that back, and then you drop another one.
It's awesome, doesn't it? You start getting ahead of yourself and think you have to do something when
it does. Yeah.
A lot of times the other guys are in a worse position than you are, and you just don't know.
Exactly. So that was a huge relief. I made a good par at the last at San Roque. It's quite a tough par 4, and I had a good drive. There was water everywhere. I remember I had a nice 5-iron into the middle of the green and 2-putted, and I was so relieved. I just thought if I had not got my card, that would have been the biggest sickener of my career, to become so close. So that was it, and naively I thought, that's me made it. And I remember going out in Porto Banús in Marbella that night, like big time Charlie, thinking, that's it, I've made it, which looking back is laughable, because my foot wasn't even in the first rung of the ladder, I'd only qualified. But it was such a big thing, and I genuinely thought, you're a good enough player, you'll keep your card now for years. And what a fright I got when I eventually got out to play my first 2 or 3 events, and I realised how good the standard was. Looking back now, it was all quite naive and a bit blasé, and I think, geez, Alan, did you honestly think that you were just going to go out there and it was going to be that easy? But at the time, that is how I felt, yeah.
The guys, the thing that people talk about is that they're battle-hardened. They're not necessarily more talented, hit better shots, putt better. They're just tough. They just keep getting it done, and year after year, I remember looking at some of the results of some of the guys, and a name that sticks out is Damien McGrain, and that guy just chummed his card every single year. And he'd get to the last 3 events, he's nowhere, and suddenly he'll finish 2nd or 3rd, he'll win, and he's got his card back again. And that takes real toughness to keep it going, isn't it?
And that was the biggest shock I got, Ross, at my first few events. I was playing with guys who were, I would term journeyman pros, but they've been on tour for 15, 17, 18 years, but I'd never really heard of them. And they were journeyman pros, and I'm playing with them, and they were on a different level from me. They were so much better than me. And that's. I'm not talking about the Faldos and the Lathabals and the Sevies at that time, who were the top ones. These were guys who were journeyman pros that would scrape their European Tour card every year. It would be the top 115 would keep their cards, and every year these boys would finish 111th, 112th, 113th. They would just scrape it. So that they are journeyman pros. They're barely making a living, and they were different class from me. And as I say, that's before you even get the superstars. So the level even. And that, that's all those years ago in 1997, and wind on to what now? I mean, the standard is just outrageous. I mean, the standard then was brilliant, very, very good, but now it's just off the charts, But so don't get me wrong. I think I've got 16 events. I missed 11 cuts. I made 5 cuts. I think the biggest check I got was about $3,500. So. But it was an amazing experience. It was I loved I loved every minute of it. In hindsight, I loved every minute. At the time, it was hard missing cut after cut, and then down on ability. Why am I even out here? And which was wrong, because if you actually get out on tour, you're a damn good player. Whether you fail out there or not, the fact that you've got there and you've got the mind and the mental strength in the game to actually play on at that time the European Tour. So, but you do start doubting yourself, and you start thinking, I'm not good enough to be out here. Well, you were, and I was, but I think I was a wee bit rabbit caught in the headlights a little bit. I was a bit spooked at how good they were, and I just didn't quite settle, I'll be honest with you. So that was it. I mean, it was over before it began. I say I got 15, 16 events. It was over, but no regrets, and I never went back again. I thought, I kind of lost my edge a wee bit after that year. I think my confidence took a wee bit of a knock, and I thought, nah, you've done your bit, well done, you got your card, okay, you've not made the millions that you were thinking you were going to, and you're not going to have this glamorous lifestyle, but you got there, and at least you can say you gave it a go. So, you can't do much more,
Oh, people would take your right hand off to
absolutely.
And the thing that you're talking about there, though, Alan, you have got a standard that people struggle to match for many, many years. So I'd love you to talk me through about Carnoustie and the situation there. And
I thought you might bring that up. Most folk do.
Great.
Yeah, well, two amazing days in my life. Both days, funnily enough, both happened at Carnoustie, and the first one was 1994 when I was still working with Ken at Codder. I was still doing my training, and I was playing in the Daily Express National 4-Day Pro-Am, which was a big event. I think Paul Laurie actually won it the year before, and it was a fantastic event. It was a 4-round Pro-Am using 3 different courses. So it was Panmure, it was the Burnside at Carnoustie, and then it was a championship course at Carnoustie. And it was a wee bit like the Dunhill that the teams and the players and the pros would play. And then if you made the cut, there was a 3-round cut, and if you made the cut, the final round was back in the championship course. So if you played all 4 rounds, it was 2 in the big course, 1 at Burnside and 1 at Panmure. And I played at Panmure the first day, played great. I think I shot 4 under, and then I went to the Burnsides the second day at Carnoustie, and I shot 62, which was 6 under. I think that's right. So anyway, I think I had about 3 or 4 shot leads, but now I'm going to the championship course, and all my fellow pros are going to Burnside and Panmure, so there's a feeling that I'm going to come back to the field a bit, and I've got a 4 or 5 shot lead, whatever it is. And I do remember thinking myself, geez, if I can get round this big course and maybe 74, 75 today, I'll still be in contention going into the last round tomorrow.
I'm not
going to lose ground. And I went out that day and had absolutely the round of my life, couldn't do a thing wrong, and ended up shooting 8 under par 64 around the championship course, which was a course record that stood for 23 years. And people say to me this day, and I don't ever want this ever to come across in a big-headed way, but people always say to me, you must have went crazy that day, you must have holed everything, you must have chipped in 3 times, you must have holed out a bunker, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't, Ross. I drove the ball great, and I just hit so many good iron shots, and I got them in kind of 10, 12 feet, and I took my chances. I didn't do anything I didn't do anything stupid. I mean, the longest putt I holed that day genuinely was about 12 feet. And so it was just a great round of golf and the way the game should be played. And if I could put that in a jam jar and bottle it and take that feeling with me every time, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you, big man, that's for sure. I'd be away living in one of my hussies in Barbados or Australia or somewhere else.
It's funny what you say though, Alan. For me, when I've played Carnoustie, I've played it a couple of times, possibly 3.
Yeah.
And the thing I always say to people is it's the toughest, fairest golf course in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me to hear that folk sort of think you'd a lucky day, I'm like, no, you don't get lucky bounces, you don't get bad bounces either.
No,
you
absolutely
get exactly
not.
what you put in. You hit a good shot, you get rewarded. You hit a bad one, you don't. It's as simple as that. So
absolutely. So it's ended up shooting 6.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So I think that was me 4, 6, 8. So I think I was like 14 or 15 under after the 3 rounds. Well, and I came off, and I always remember old Jock McVicker, rest his soul. Jock was the chief writer for the Daily Express, who were sponsoring the tournament. And Jock came running over at my 18th green. He's going, Alan, this is unbelievable. He said, you're the first man ever to shoot 64 round Carnoustie, and all the greats of the game, Ben Hogan, Gene Sarrazin, Jack Nicklaus, Tom Watson, they've all been here, and you're the first guy to ever shot 64. And the enormity of it hadn't hit me, and then all of a sudden when he started, I saw it. Jock was like emotional, and I was like, oh my goodness, and he's like, one of our own have done it, it's unbelievable. So I ended up, I get ushered into a wee press conference, and Martin Dempster and all the guys were there, and all the journalists, and they were all asking me questions. And at the end of that, I hadn't even thought about where I'm in the tournament, and I said, I haven't even looked at the leaderboard. I said, I take it I'm leading. And they all kind of started laughing, and they said, well, you've got one round to play tomorrow on the championship course, and you've got a 15-shot lead over Dean Robertson. So 15. So they said, do you think you can hold on? And you know, it was funny because Carnoustie being Carnoustie, I remember that night I was staying in a caravan in Arbroath. I was staying with a big guy, Hamish Kemp, Big Hamish used to be an assistant at Codder as well. And Hamish and I stayed in this caravan in Arbroath all that week, and we went back that night, and we're sitting there, and I said, Hamish, I've just had a thought, and I said, what? And I said, well, see Carnoustie, see if the wind blows tomorrow. I said, you know, I could shoot 85, you know, it could happen, and Dean could shoot 70, because he's that good. And Hamish looked at me and goes, big man, go to your bed. He says, it's not going to happen. So the next day it actually was quite windy, and the greenkeeper wasn't happy that I'd shot that score, so the pins were all tucked away. Oh, the pins were all tucked away.
Did you have a course record before you? They thought you were not going to do that again, son?
They were hanging on down slopes, the back of bunkers and everything. It was brilliant. And I shot 76 the last round, and Dean, I think, was 73, which was a great score, to be fair. So I ended up, I managed to go home by 12, so I was quite pleased to. And that was amazing, yeah, just a special day. And then in the back of that, almost 12 months later, I was playing in the Bell Scottish Open at Carnoustie, which the Scottish Open, as we all know it now, went to Loch Lomond, sponsored by Barclays, and then up to Castle Stuart and Royal Aberdeen, became the Aberdeen Asset Management, which is now the Renaissance. An amazing event, and that's probably the biggest event I've ever played in, probably the biggest event I'll ever play in. So it was through my Order of Merit in Scotland at that time. If you were in the top 3, you get in like the PGA at Wentworth, and you get in the Scottish Open, and you get in 2 or 3 events. So I'm getting in the Scottish Open, and it was literally 12 months after I'd done the course record, and I was really looking forward to going back to the scene of the crime, and this is absolutely true. And I had booked a tee time the next day, and the next thing I'm standing on the tee, and next thing the crowds start milling about, and because there'd been nobody about all morning, and it's only practice day Tuesday, and then I'm thinking, where are all these people coming from? Like, surely they're not here to just watch me. I'm like, come on, I know a good round last year, but I'm just an assistant pro for Glasgow. And then the next thing out the crowd walks Ben Crenshaw, at that time the Masters champion, having just won his second Masters 3 months before, and one of all-time heroes. And walking behind him was Tiger Woods, and I'm standing there, and the next thing they came over, do you mind if we join you? I'm going, sorry. And as it turned out, I mean, I found out from Ben Crenshaw's caddy who caddied for Ben every time he played in Scotland. How it came about was that the Ben and Tiger went into the players' lounge the night before. They had just arrived at Cooper. They'd come in the private jet, and the three of them were standing, Crenshaw, Tiger and Crenshaw's caddy. And I had put my name up next to a wee guy, John Greaves, who was the assistant at Glasgow Golf Club at the time. And the caddy, Crenshaw's caddy, turned out to the two of them and said, "See that guy playing at 11:31? He's just an assistant pro from Glasgow, and last year he shot 64 here, the first man ever to shoot 64 around the championship course at Carnoustie." And Crenshaw turned around to Tiger and said, "I think we should play with this guy." Tiger went, "Absolutely." And I'm like, I wish somebody told me, they were going to be joining us. I might have so, and that was it. The next thing wore away. I absolutely chunked it off the first with a 2-iron. I was that nervous.
I think you were reaching for driver in the first.
No, I should have. And that was it. We went out that day, played at 18 holes in the company of those two, which was, looking back again, incredible when you think about it. And to be fair, Ross, I was more overawed playing with Crenshaw because he was the Masters champion.
Yeah. And that Tiger wasn't professional, right? He was still.
Well, he just won the US Amateur, and I mean, we knew he was good, and he arrived with all his groupies and his potty dry. Arrived with his trainer and his nutritionist and the chefs, and I mean, he had a huge team, even them travelling with him. And I was asked at the time after I played with him, how good was he? And I've still got the newspaper article somewhere, and I did quote at the time, and I said he was pretty sensational. I said he was a wee bit wild at times off the tee. I said, but I'm pretty sure that this kid will win probably at least 2 or 3 majors. So I said 2 or 3. So some folk might say that was a bad guess. I think it was a pretty good guess to say a 19-20-year-old. Now, never in my wildest dreams. Yeah, but never in my wildest dreams. Yeah, but never in my wildest dreams if he'd said to me that day, he'll go on to become the greatest player for 10 years, a 10-year span, and nobody will touch him. And he'll probably beat Jack Nicklaus's record. And I would have said, no, wait a minute, he's good, but he's not that good. But that was his first ever round of golf in Scotland, and I played with him. That was the first ever round of golf he had, which was great. But I was amazed, just 2-3 years later, I think 20 months later, he shoots 40 in the front nine at the Masters and then wins it by 12, and the rest was history. That was it.
He obviously take inspiration from you, Alan. Come on.
It must be something like that.
Before and went, this that guy won by 12, I can do that.
But he saw my duff at the first and thought, I never want to be like that guy.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, incredible experience. And the two of them were great to play with. I mean, I know Tiger's had his fair share of criticism over the years, and I'm a huge Tiger fan, always have been, and when all that was happening, when he lost his way and all the women and all the rest of it, and that was all well documented. I'm not saying that. The bit that was annoying me was it was the way he was behaving on the golf course. I just thought, that's not that young guy I played, spitting in the greens, and he's almost shoving kids out the road, not wanting to sign their autographs, and I'm like, that's not the guy that I played that day with, and I know he lost his way and all the rest of it, but great. I loved, when he gets through all that, he's snapped out of that, and he's now he's back to being a great, I think a great ambassador for the game. And I don't care if people are out there listening to this and they don't like Tiger. I get that. I get why you don't like him. I totally get it, and I'm not going to fall out with you about it. But what I would say is that, the game's far more exciting, and tournaments are more exciting when he's playing in them. Even now,
Absolutely.
Even now when he's approaching 50, I don't watch golf, Ross. I genuinely don't. I watch the Masters, I'll watch the Ryder Cup, and if I've got time, I'll watch the Open, but you'll never see me watching American golf at the weekends. I can't be bothered. I find it boring.
That's what for the Scottish guys, Alan. That's what I wait for in European Tour on a Sunday.
I know.
If one of the Scottish guys did well,
to be honest, I don't even watch that. It's just I'm either busy, but it's just the speed of the play they take now, and I don't know a lot of the names now, but if somebody says to me, Tiger's playing this weekend, I'm watching, and I think, I'm there. I'm tuning in, so if he's playing, I'm watching, but if he's not playing, I'm not really that bothered. But I always watch the Masters and the Ryder Cup. I love them. Masters are my favourite. I try and take those 4 nights off, and I'm making sure that I've got plenty of tenants in the fridge, and I'm not going far for 4 nights, put it that way.
In my house is well known, Masters Week and Open Week, I am out of action, so But no, great experiences, Alan. And then away from the playing side of things, in 2000 you moved into a different role in golf, which was taking over as director of golf at Westerwood. So, and that's led you down a different path of your whole career.
Yeah,
So how's it been taking that step? Not away from playing. I know you still play now, and you like beating the guys very comfortably still as well. I'll point out. But what has that different career in golf been like for you?
It's been great, Ross, and Westerwood came at a great time for me because I had my European tour experience in '97, and I really, from about '98, '99, I lost my mojo, and I started even pro-ams in Scotland. I wasn't playing well, and I ended up, I developed a sort of chip in yips, and it appeared out of nowhere. Because I was always a really great chipper, always a good short game. And I don't know whether I just lost my nerve, whatever. And so from about 1999 till about 2005, I literally never hit a ball. I literally 6-7 years, not, and just didn't even miss it. I fell out of love with the game, and I wasn't happy. No, and I just thought I don't want to play, and it was horrible. And the next thing, I was kind of thinking, what am I going to do with myself? And then I got approached, from the owners who had just taken over Westerwood. That was in receivership at the bank again. Westerwood's never been great, and it's a shame because it had so much potential back in the day. It really did. It's a shame. And I got, they approached me and said, look, we'd love you to, come on board and be the face of Westerwood, and we're going to put, we're going to invest, and we're really going to we're going to try and turn this place around. We want you on board with us. We think you can, do a good job. And that was it. So I went down, so it wasn't just me being the head golf pro. It was more a director of golf role where I was overseeing the whole golf operations, and then even soon after, I was doing like duty manager shifts in the hotel, and I was helping out with food and beverage and doing all that thing.
That's when it sort of started for the other parts as well.
Exactly, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I started putting myself through a lot of training courses like food and beverage and governance and HR courses, because I thought I'm enjoying this, and I can see myself going down this managerial role, and doing this. And that basically that's what I did for the next 25 years. I'd 7 very happy years at Westerwood, and I know the course is not great, and it never will be because of the drainage issues, but it was a great team we had then, and we really did for that 7 years. We worked hard, we played hard, it was great fun, but we really achieved something in that 7 years, and the owners were delighted, and they sold up a few years later, and they made good money, which was great. And then from there, I went to the Carrick on Loch Lomond. I went there pre-opening. I went there 6 months before it opened, and I was there for nearly 2 years, helping getting that operation up and running. And then from there, I had a spell up at Spey Valley up in the Highlands. I went up there it was just a 1-year management contract. Again, they were a little bit, didn't really have a structure in place, so I went up there and kind of helped manage, get them going. And
somebody is there now, David McMullen's at Spey Valley now.
That's right, yep. And well, funnily enough, you mentioned David, because David, so after Spey Valley, I then got the director of golf job at Dalmahoy, working for Marriott, who were a fantastic company, Marriott. They really were amazing. And so I had nearly 10 very happy years at Dalmahoy, and David McMullen actually worked for me briefly when he was at Dalmahoy. So Marriott were an amazing company, and I've told this story before, and I won't give the other hotel chain, I won't embarrass them, but one of those jobs I went to, and I went there as director of golf, a senior role, big responsibility, and my induction with that company was 45 minutes, and that was me getting told, right, there you go, on with your job. I went and started at Dalmahoy working for Marriott International, the biggest hotel company in the world, and my induction was 5 days. From 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night, and it was the most wonderful 5 days. Learned so much. You learned all about, the ethics of the Marriott family and how they do things differently in other countries. And I remember after that 5-day induction, I thought, I want to work for this company. This is fantastic. So
Dalmahoy's a magical place, Alan, as well. I mean, my soul is in Motherwell at Cobble Park, but my heart's in Dalmahoy. I love it.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic place.
And I loved the buzz of the hospitality. There was never 2 days the same. And don't get me wrong, it was long, long hours. I mean, I was always at my desk sort of 7 o'clock in the morning and usually not getting away to kind of 6 at night. And you're never going to please everybody. Dalmahoy, big membership, and you're thinking you're doing a good job and you're thinking you're making the right decisions. And the majority of the members are with you saying, fantastic, we've been asking for this for years and you've come along and you've managed to change it all. Well done, you. And then you'll be walking across the car park and some tube will shout over, I don't agree with what you're doing with this or that, no, whatever, so
it's like
you just
for you, Alan, you can never
exactly. Exactly, you just go on with it. But no, I loved the buzz of the whole, and then the last part of my management, I left Dalmahoy at my first general manager's job at Deer Park, just down the road in Livingston, and I loved that. I was there again nearly 2 years, and I managed to get the owners to really spend a bit of money in the place, which it really needed. The leisure club was really tired, things weren't working, health and safety was poor. We get new golf furniture for the golf course, new signage, we get new TVs put up in the lounge, so I managed to get them to open the purse string, so everybody was happy with me at Deer Park. I managed to really change that, and that it was me that took the decisions, but you still need the backing of the owners to support you, and to be fair, they did, and membership, almost doubled overnight. It was fantastic, and that gave me a lot of satisfaction. So really, to be fair, Ross, very many happy memories of everywhere I've worked in. I've got on well with all my teams and keep in touch with a lot of them that work for me, and a lot of them that I work next to as well, which has been great.
And Alan, I'd love to go even deeper in everything here, but I'm conscious of taking a lot more of your time. One of the things which has really stood out for me throughout your time that I've known you, and I don't know you that well, I've met you is the way I'd put it, but I've always admired what you do. You're very into bringing people into golf and supporting events, and these days you're an ambassador role for golf breaks, but you also do things like setting up tournaments for people, so can you just talk about that and just take us on to what you're doing now and what the future holds for you?
Yeah, well, I took the decision 3 years ago, Ross, to go self-employed, and that was, it was a bittersweet, tragic moment. I lost my big brother. He had a massive heart attack out of the blue, and John was my best pal, my soulmate, as well as being the best big brother in the world. And John and I, we spoke on the phone genuinely 2-3 times a day for the last 35 years, every day. We'd go away down to Port Patrick for the weekend, play golf, we'd just go away the two of us, or we'd go away to the football weekend, whatever. And lost John like that, unexpected, the healthiest guy in the world. And just, devastating. I'll never go over it, and I miss the big man every day. But every time John and I were out having a few beers, he would always say to me, you should really go out on your own. You've got such a big network of people. You should go on your own. And I would have a few beers by this point, and I would say, right, John, I'm going to do it this week. You're right, I'm going to do it this week. I wake up the next day, sober up. Because it was a big leap of faith. It's a big step. You're walking away from a monthly salary, and your bills are paid and all the rest of it. And John and I had this conversation for years, and I always said, right, a big man, I'll do it this week, I'll do it next month, blah, 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 and I never ever did it. And it unfortunately took for what happened to John, and then, 3 months after John died, I said to my sister, I'm actually getting a wee bit... I'm alright.
Take your time on.
So I said to my sister about 3 months after, I said, John always wanted me to go out mowing, and I'm going to do it, Julie. I said to my sister, I'm going to do this, and she was like, she panicked for me, and Julie was like, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I've no idea. I said, but I just know that that's what he wanted, and I'm going to do it. And I suppose the worst that can happen, if it doesn't happen, I can go back to being a director of golf, or I can go back to being a general manager. I said, but I want to do it because that was always his wish. And I said, and John always said that if I did do it, more opportunities would come my way. And that was it. 6 months later, I basically put on LinkedIn that I'm going on my own. I've got no idea what I'm going to do, but if there's any opportunities out there and anybody wants to talk to me, And you know, Ross, it was amazing. The amount of people and folk that got in touch, it was amazing. And it was just so appreciative that people that reached out. Golf Breaks were one of the first on the phone. And they came on and they were like, "Big man, we saw your LinkedIn. We don't have a position, but let's have a chat. Let's have a Zoom call. Let's just see what can come of it." And that was brilliant. And I get so many calls like that. And after about a week, 2 weeks, I'm thinking, where do I start? I've got all these offers and I'm going and moan. I'm going to be self-employed and I can be an ambassador for these companies and I can do this and I can be a consultant with that company and I can do this and it's all in my terms. And I remember sitting there thinking, geez, the big man was right all along. I wish I'd done it years ago. He was right, and more opportunities have appeared. So it was a bitter. It's been it took the most tragic thing in my life to get me where and I think that's what keeps me going now, because everything I do now, I know how proud the big man would have been. So that's why people say to me, "Can you keep up with you on Facebook? You're here, you're there, you're everywhere." And I'm like, because I love doing it, and I know John would be sitting there going, "Magic! I knew you would, Alan. I knew you would, and I'm so proud of you." So that's what drives me on. So then I just got the idea of, setting up on little golf tours, because there's plenty golfers out there, and they're not all golf pros. They've not got the handicaps to play in different things. And the first one was during COVID, and I was conscious that the pros and the top amateurs weren't getting any competitive golf. And I just did I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning this night thinking, I had this light bulb brainwave, and I thought, I could maybe pull 7 or 8 events together. And this was like June, we're in the middle of COVID and we're halfway through the season. And I thought I could set up a tour where they've got a 14-day window to post a score. And then I'll keep all the scores, and at the end of the 14 days, I'll reveal how they've got on. So no sooner had I thought it, and within 48 hours I had 8 venues on board, and I had said to them, "Look, could we set this up? It'll be 14 days. The guys will arrange their own tee times, they'll arrange their own partners, they'll send me their scores at night, and then I'll release it." And that was it. And all the clubs, it was £35 entry fee, £25 went into the prize fund, and a tenner went to the club as a thank you. And you know what? It was great fun. I played in them, and the guys, the clubhouses weren't open, but they could go there, play their golf, and then they would send me their scores at night. And the guys loved it, and I played in them, and I really enjoyed them. And I did it just as a one-off. And then that winter, they're all texting me and emailing me, "Tait, are you going to do that? Get back to golf again? That was brilliant. We loved playing in it." And I was like, "Oh wow!" I'm like, "Well, if there's an appetite there for it, then yes." So, and here we are in 2024, and this is it, getting into its 5th year. So it's just get bigger and bigger, and there's more guys playing in it, and it's a great, nobody's going to get rich playing it. If you win one, you might get 300, 400, 500 quid, and that'll pay out the top 20% of the field. But most importantly, it's brought a lot of people together. I mean, that Get Back to Golf tour, I've got a WhatsApp group with about 230 guys on it, and it's so nice because somebody will come on and say, "Hi, I've just joined the tour. I don't really know MD, and I've got a time at Scots Craig at 10:40 next Thursday. Does MD want to play?" And all of a sudden, I'll come and play with you. I see all the answers.
If I was here, anywhere near Scots Craig, I'd be getting in for that.
Exactly. So not only is it giving guys and girls, it's open to girls as well. It's not only giving them keeping that competitive opportunity for them, but it's started a community. There's been new friendships made, and guys are, and it's brilliant. So that's been great. And then I started up a wee Carnoustie tour just for a bit of fun. And again, that was another sitting scrolling through social media one night, and this guy come on and said, "I'm a cat-handed golfer. I was just wondering how many of us are out there." And I was amazed about the folk come in saying, "I'm a member here, and I play off 5, and I play off 7, and I play off 2, and I'm a member of this club, and blah, blah."
Those are good guys.
And then this one guy come on and said, "It's a shame we don't have our own wee Cat-Canders tour just for us." And I thought, I thought, next one's set up. So that was that. And they're great. We only play one a month from kind of April to October, and it's kind of the same 30-odd guys that play in them every month, but they love it and they're really appreciative. And again, we get all these great courses for next to nothing, and the guys love it. And then this year I've just started up a Scottish Women's Amateur Tour, which we've got 9 36-hole events in the diary. with a grand final at Castle Stewart later on in the year. So I just felt the girls and the women didn't have enough of playing opportunities. So I've set it up this year. So we'll get the first event at Dornoch in mid-April.
Oh, Gary Dingwall country.
Absolutely. In fact, I was on the emails to him.
There you go.
I was on the emails to him this morning. So I'll see Gary. And so I've got 9 amazing venues. We've got Dalmahoy, and they're all 2 rounds. We've got Scotscraig. We've got the 2 courses at Fairmont St Andrews. Loads of great courses, and all the girls and the women are getting the entry fee for each event £65 for 2 rounds at all these venues. So they're getting they're getting Dornoch and the Struy at Dornoch this month for £65, which is amazing. So I hope that takes off, and we'll just see where it goes. But if it doesn't take off, I'll do another tour somewhere. I'll find something. But no, listen. I love keeping busy, and I love putting my bit back into as much as I can into the game of golf in Scotland. I love the country. I think Scotland's the best country in the world, and I've been so lucky to have travelled around the world. But you can't beat coming home. I just love Scotland, and if I can help in any way with helping others or giving them more playing opportunities, and if that keeps me busy and it keeps me going and keeps all these good things going, then everybody's happy. So that's what keeps me driving on. But really, to be honest.
Absolutely, and Alan, thanks for sharing about your brother. That must have been such a tough time, but he saw in you what you've just described, that energy, that enthusiasm, and I know there's other things you've done where you've set your tournaments up, and you just do it like it's nothing, and it's not, and it's so incredible to hear you talking about that, and it must be really fantastic for you to be cracking on with it as well. So thanks for sharing, and thanks for doing it as well.
No, I appreciate that. No, thank you.
So just wrapping up here, Alan, I've kept you way too long. You're a great guy, and you do everything for everybody else, but I do need to let you go. We'll have another episode where we can get in deeper. But just finally, Alan, any social media handles you want to share for your business and your ventures going forward?
Well, not really the handles, but I've got a good website, Ross. Everything's on there, all the different links for LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. But I just like people to go to my website, see a little bit more about me, who I am, what I do. I do a lot after dinner speaking. I do a lot of hosting golf days, do a bit of charity work. Still do a bit of media stuff and wee bits and the snippets and BBC Radio Scotland stuff. So spinning plates, I think we could say, is what I'm kind of doing. So my website's just www.allantategolf.co.uk, and everything's on there, and all the links are there to join the Get Back to the Golf Breaks, Get Back to Golf Tour, the Carnoustie Tour, and the Scottish Women's Amateur Tour. So they can join online there. They don't need to do it through me. It's all done through the fantastic Golf Genius, the management app, and it's fantastic. So go to my website, allantategolf.co.uk, and you can learn all more about Tait.
Brilliant. And Alan, thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate it, and we'll speak soon. Thank you.
No worries. Okay, Ross. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Well, everyone, I'm sure like me you really enjoyed hearing from Alan. I was truly moved by Alan opening up about how the tragic passing of his brother had such an effect and impact on him. But I was also delighted to hear that event then led to him going out on his own, and it'll be no surprise to you that he's doing incredibly well. Amongst other things, Alan is an accomplished after-dinner speaker, he's been a radio broadcaster, and he's also been a broadcaster and commentator on events such as the British Open. Alan's a really talented guy, and I'm very thankful to him for coming on to the show. If you've got any feedback for me, please send it to linkedbygolf@yahoo.com or catch me on Instagram @linkedbygolf2024. I'll be releasing another episode soon, and in the meantime, please do like, share and subscribe to the podcast, and I'd love you to go back and listen to any episodes that you haven't listened to before. So thanks for listening, folks. You'll hear from me soon. Goodbye.